Grace and peace to you, beloved. Amy Wilson Feltz here, coming to you from the parsonage of St. Paul's United Methodist Church in El Paso, Texas. Thank you so much for joining me for coffee with Pastor Amy. I really look forward to this time. It is part of my rhythm of life, and so I'm excited to share that with you. As I was preparing for our time together this morning, I was thinking about a story that I wanted to share with you about Augie, and I realized that I talked about him last week, and I just wanted to say that Olivia and Natalie are fabulous, and I have all kinds of stories that I could tell about them as well. What I'm recognizing about this time in our lives is that Augustus is in a sweet spot in terms of his development. He's 5 years old, and those of you who have been around children, you understand that often there's a big difference between a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old. He's grown up so much in the last year, but he still fully accesses his wild imagination. And it's just a lot of fun. And he's learning to express himself in some really interesting ways. He's a very deep thinker. And so it's fun to really walk with him as he's processing what's going on and able to articulate it. So a couple of nights ago, we were sitting at the dinner table, and he had an incident while he was chewing, and it scared him. Now, he was never in danger in this moment of actually choking, but it was a scary experience for him. And after it was over and he was safe, he realized he was okay, he began to cry, sob, really. So I held him while he was crying, trying to figure out what was going on with him internally, and he said, well, it was all my fault. I didn't chew well. I did something wrong. I said, Augie, we all need to be reminded sometimes that we need to chew carefully. And I thought, oh, well, I can just link this to his favorite thing in the world, dinosaurs. I said, dinosaurs have great big teeth that chomp, chomp, chomp. It's one of his favorite songs. And he said, well, I'm not a dinosaur. I'm a boy. And I said, well, yeah, that's true. You are a boy, but we have our imaginations, and so we can pretend to be dinosaurs. And he said, Mom, when I'm sad, I'm out of ideas. When I'm sad, I'm out of ideas. That just made so much sense to me. When we have big feelings, like we talk about them here in the Feltz household in this season of life, it's hard to access our thinking brains. It's hard to process and think, what can I do in this situation to address what is going on? We just feel sometimes stuck by what we are feeling. And we talk to our kids, Jason and I, about our feelings in positive ways. Anything we're feeling is valid. We just need to do what we can to think about how we can act in positive and healthy ways regardless of what we are feeling. But it is hard to do that when our emotions are overwhelming. And collectively, as a human race, there are so many things right now that can lead to our feeling overwhelmed. We have a 24/7 news cycle. We have access to social media. We know what's going on in the world, and it's really easy to feel stuck when we think about the magnitude of the suffering. And we know, as followers of Jesus, that we are called to move towards suffering, just as Jesus did, and to do what we can to acknowledge, certainly, and alleviate, if possible, that suffering in the world. So when the suffering feels so large that we feel like we can't touch it at all, we can feel paralyzed and we can't access our ideas. We're out of ideas. So I've been thinking about what to do in those situations, and it comes back for me to having a healthy rule of life or rhythm of life, which I mentioned earlier this morning in our time together, and we've talked about this before. A rhythm of life or a rule of life allows us to process what's going on. It gives us time to connect to our God, to our Creator, to creation, and to locate ourselves in this larger narrative and understand that we're not alone and that we have been given some gifts and some skills and some graces to contribute in this world, especially in times of suffering. And a rule of life looks different in different seasons. For me, it has included long jogs in the neighborhood in different seasons of my life. Certainly now that's not as easy to do. Sometimes yoga is a part of that rule of life for me. Right now, silence in the morning, in this time of day especially, is really important. It's one of the only times of the day that I can be by myself and really connect with God. Jesus set that example for us as well, withdrawing to pray after being connected with people in some real and important ways, healing, preaching, teaching. Then he would withdraw to connect and recharge. And so I just want to encourage you, wherever you are today, whatever it is you're feeling, to acknowledge those big feelings. It's okay to have them, and it's even okay to feel overwhelmed by them. But I encourage you to find spaces and places in your day where you can process what you're feeling. You can release some of the anxiety. You can really think about not just the big picture, but the places in your picture, in your life, where you can be the hands and feet of Jesus, acknowledging the suffering, doing what you can to alleviate it, knowing that other people are doing the same thing. And when we work together, we can make a big difference when we're feeling overwhelmed. Take breaks when you need to. Turn off the news for a while. Check it at a certain time every day rather than participating in a 24/7 stream. Do what you can to take some deep breaths and see God at work in the world and know that God is inviting you to participate in healthy and sustainable ways. So I hope that's encouraging for you as you're acknowledging your feelings today and you are accessing your ideas as you can. Thank you for continuing to fight this good fight. It makes a difference in our community and in our world. I'm looking forward to being with you here again next week for Coffee with Pastor Amy. I do want to remind you that Coffee with Pastor Amy will conclude at the end of this month. So if you have anything that you'd like to talk about over the next couple of weeks, please send me an email and I will be happy to engage with you about that. And know that I am praying with you and for you throughout the week. We'll see you next week. Grace and peace.